I figured something out in Maya. I've been trying to find ways to kind of optimize my process, and 3D has become one of those tools that I use a lot, especially when it comes to things like environments or giant structures, buildings, or tech or things like that. So any shortcut that you can figure out is great. And I figured out something, and it's been frustrating me for a long time, and I wanted to share. Using Mesh to make Greebles for a sci-fi thingy in Autodesk Maya. This is useful if you want to create a lot of surface detail on a flat plane or a rounded plane, or just a surface that doesn't have much detail in it. And instead of drawing it every time, if you can model it, then you have a thing where you can take pictures of it from various angles and stick it into your background. You do it once. Setting it up might be a pain in the ass, but once you've done it, you have this object that you can use for background shots in a space station, or if you want to print it out. Sometimes you just need geometry to make Greebles instead of a texture map. So let me show you what I did. First, we need something to put Greebles on. I need a space station for reasons. So we're going to start off with a tube. I'm going to move this off the origin just so we can see things a little bit better. And we are going to be good artists and name things. So we'll call this space station. Now we need our Greebles. We're going to go with Greeble 1. I'm going to call this guy Greeble 1. And just so you can tell that there are other things going on, we're going to create a spherical Greeble. We're going to call that one Greeble 2. Greeble 2. And we will just scale these a little bit so they look a little bit more in proportion. It doesn't matter. You can tweak this once you figure all this stuff out. All right. So, Greebles. Click on Greeble 1, go to our Mesh tab up in our shelf, create Mesh network. You know what this all looks like. Open up our Mesh settings. So let's go over to our distribute node. You can see the distribution type. It says linear right now. We are looking for mesh. Click on mesh. We don't have an input mesh. We want the space station to be our input mesh. So middle mouse click space station into input mesh and gabam. Now we got Greebles on our space station. We need more of them. So let's increase the number of points. And I like the scatter, but you can change the method. You could do vertex, you could do random vertex, you could do all of these things, but I will stick with scatter. Kabam. All right, pretty easy. This is how we set up one Greeble, but we have two, and we need to figure out how to stick this sphere Greeble onto the same thing. So go to our repo node. Right now, Greeble 1 is the only one in our objects list. So let's add Greeble 2. So middle mouse click, Greeble 2, stick it in there. Nothing happens. Boo-hoo. Go back to Mesh. We need to add a ID node. Here's the ID node. Kablam. Add ID node. All right. Let's take a look at the ID node. Okay, so right now, it says ID count 2. ID count looks for how many objects are in the repo node object list. We have 2. This is telling Mesh to look for 2 and to spit out 2 on our surface. I like to use random for the ID type. You can use all this other stuff, but random works for me. And then you can change the slider to see how many random seeds. The more Greebles you have, I think this will make more of a difference. So if I take the slider, go down to 1, only the first Greeble will appear. If I wanted to isolate the Greeble or only make one Greeble appear, you know, I could just move that up in the list. So we don't want to do that. We want as many Greeblies as possible. So increase that ID count. If we wanted to add a third Greeble, we don't have to reconnect everything. We just have to add another object into the repo node. So let's go back to poly modeling. Let's go with a cone. Go back over to Mesh, repo node, we gotta rename everything. So Greeble 3. I can't believe I left the E off of Greeble 2. All right, so mash, repo node, grab Greeble 3, middle mouse click. Greeble 3 is in the thing. We need to increase our ID count. So increase that to 3. And now we have cones and spheres and cubes as our Greebles. And then there are other nodes you can add, like a displacement node or all these other fun mash nodes. But this is just a pretty easy, straightforward, simple way to set up your mash network and to add customizable Greebles. You know, I think this would look great if you had 4 or 5 or maybe even more, and then you just stick them on a thing and then make it random. You can also, once you've stuck it in Mash, it'll retain the changes. I think I have this instanced, so you can make changes to the Greeble and it'll show up live on the surface. So that's pretty cool. You know, you can make this one fatter if you wanted to. That sort of stuff. Okay, so that's how you use Mash and a bunch of little primitives to make a whole bunch of Greebles on a space thing. In this case, a space station. You can use this for any sort of ship that you need. If you need geometry and you don't want to do it with texture maps or anything like that, if you want to do it with actual geometry and stick it on a thing, maybe you need Greebles for a 3D print or something like that. This is a method that should work. All right, so here's a more fancy model. This is kind of the base for my spaceship. I still need to do a lot of more detailing, but I wanted to see what the greebling would look on the whole fuselage. So I did the same thing, except instead of using 3 generic objects, I created 6 Greebles. I gave them all a little bit of a bevel so that you could see the light reflect off them from far away. Let's go to the repro node. You can see all my Greebles are in here. They go up to 5 because this array starts at 0. And then we go to our ID, and you see I bumped that up to 6 because there's 6 Greebles. There's 6 Greebles. And then you take a look. Now it looks great from far away, except for these edges here where they poke out. I'm not sure how to really fix that, but if we go to our outline here, we can see the Mash 1 repro mesh. If we duplicate that and hide the original, then you can edit this one. Go to face mode, and then you can just double click on the Greebles that you want to delete and delete it and tune it by hand this way. So if there's stuff that is popping on the front that you don't like, you can just go in and start deleting. And if you go too far, or if you need to undo your mistakes, you can go to your repro mesh, duplicate it again, and then do the same kind of thing. So here we go. I'm sure this will look better with more variety of Greebles, but I think for now, this is a pretty good base to work from. I still got to do more details on this thing, but yeah, hopefully, hope that helps. If there are easier, more efficient ways to make Greebles, please let me know. I know Blender has a bunch of add-ons that you can make Greebles on a surface with just a click of the button. And I was looking for like a plugin or a Mel script or something for Maya that can do the same thing. And I wondered why it wasn't out there. I wondered why when I typed in my Google search, it wasn't like the first result. And I guess it's because really smart people use Mash to do it these days. They just figure you're smart enough to use Mash as well. And I wasn't, but now I am. So I don't use Mash networks often. I do mostly poly modeling and UV unwrapping in Maya. But yeah, I'd like to learn more of what's under the hood, because it's very useful to be able to do some of these things and not have to draw it over and over and over and over and over again. Hope it was useful. I'll check you later. Woo!
Here we go. Come with me. There's a world
should see. Take my hand, close your eyes. With you right here, I'm a rocketeer. Let's fly. Here we go. Here we go. Let's fly. Here we go. Where we stop, nobody knows. Baby, we can stay fly like a G6. Shot the streets of Tokyo, get you fly kicks. Girl, you're always on my mind. Got my head up in the sky and I'm never looking down, feeling priceless.